Foam. The world produces more than 40 million tons of polystyrene each year, and it is estimated that over 30% of landfill consists entirely of plastic foam. Considering the point of foam is that it is, it weighs virtually nothing, 14 million tons of it is a near incomprehensible amount for me to visualize. So whenever I have the opportunity to pull foam from bins, skips, and it's clean and not covered in baked beans, I'm going to store it for use in future projects. Added to this, high density foam like this is actually quite expensive in the UK, so this project is environmentally friendly and also cost effective, kind of, I guess. Let's get started. What's up my movers and shakers, I'm Dave, this is MS Paints, and this is a table of desert terrain made entirely from recycled materials. My inspiration for this desert terrain is predominantly based around what I grew up looking at in White Dwarf magazine. I want this terrain to be chunky, simple, and ultimately serving to break up the battlefield with bright and clean colours and crispy contrasts. I don't want to go for, and most importantly probably couldn't recreate in the time I have, a realistic Nevada desert looking rockscape. So I'm actually leaning more toward like the Wile E. Coyote Warner Brothers looking cartoons that were set in the desert. So let's get to it. I'll start by getting a failed experiment out of the way first. Initially I wanted to use some of this flat underlay sheeting that I've got tons of, cutting vague ovals and layering them on top of each other. I've seen it used in club terrain way back in the 90s and thought I'd see if I could get anywhere with this stuff, and the results were a little cartoony, a little bit obvious, and just a little bit naff. When I say obvious, it absolutely looks like sheets of oval foam sat on top of each other. A couple turned out alright, and they'll function as cute little accent pieces for the other sections that I'm going to do later on. But ultimately, I just didn't really pursue these any further. If anyone out there wants to try it and can show me better results, then please do. I think there's something here, but I kind of just ended it there, and I'm going to paint what I've got up with the rest that I do later, and no dramas if they don't work. Terrain making has a lot of trial and error scenarios like this, and that's okay. Even when stuff goes wrong, you can bank that knowledge and you'll be a little bit more enlightened as to what a material can and can't do next time you go to use it. Using insulation foam, like I say, you can find this in skips, bins, Facebook Marketplace, and just ask around politely at your local builder's yard for offcuts of this stuff. My centerpiece is going to be a big old rock with an underpass. So the top piece will be a single complete part. Eyeballing the shapes for the subsequent Victoria sponge is totally fine, as we're going to shave these down as we go along. You can already see where I've sliced and then smashed the foam that there's some interesting textures appearing. This is because when it comes to carving, we're going to lean into the natural and chaotic shapes to make our rock faces more interesting. Let's do another layer for height. I'd like to be able to get a small tank through there or some units without having to faff around too much and get my hands in there and knocking stuff over. For gluing, it's a combination of polyurethane glue for the long-term booking and hot glue to initially grip and hold it in place. So while the Gorilla Glue does its thing, I can still be working on it and it's not going to move everywhere. Another cool piece will be this low-rise mound, just a small land elevation that I can sit other terrain elements on top of. I'm going to do smaller rocks and boulders, and these are getting carved up to serve as ground scatter. They can also be placed on top of larger rock forms for extra height and a bit of diversity to mix it up. And this is the rock texturing process. Each manufacturer's foam does behave in slightly different ways, so with other foams you might need to get a tool out for this, but with the Celotex it will crumble quite nicely using your nails. As I mentioned, keeping a few of the straight edges and shapes that form during the carving will go a long way into making a realistic rock shape. And as I say, this is Celotex, and as far as I'm aware, all Celotex is made and behaves the same. But I could be wrong. I have been wrong once before. And our finished shapes will be all kinds of rocks in a single mass. Kind of like rock, I guess. I've not even tackled the big boy yet, and just wow. Absolute carnage. Like, I can absolutely tell why my partner doesn't let me do any of this at home. This is, I mean, that's my finished sculpting pile. This is everything else. It's like I've sheared a sheep in here or something. There's a lot of waste material, but at the same time, like, it was in a skip, so technically this is environmentally friendly, right? Right. So with our basic shapes and carving done, some of the bigger sandwich gaps filled, let's get sealing and painting. I've invested in some folding tables for the studio to pop up and use in projects like this, and for battle reports down the line. Thanks to my awesome patrons, I can get stuff like this for the studio, and that makes life easier, makes filming easier, and opens possibilities for future videos. So thank you guys. Here's everything lined up, and I think I lost track of how many pieces we were working on, but damn, that is living up to the promise of a full table of terrain. So, when it comes to foam, I don't really want to faff-ass about when it comes to sealing them. Spray cans make painting a breeze, but I often have issues with them melting the foam. So, to seal them, I'm using a mixture of PVA, black paint, and baking flour. I'm making the most of that one bag of flour I bought for that 40k terrain ruins, let me tell you. This step serves to protect the foam from solvents, protect it from damage and handling, makes a decent base coat of black, and smooths out those transitional areas between textures. I want all of this business to be modular, so I'm adding a smidge of texture to the tops of the larger pieces, but nothing that will make it difficult to plonk down smaller rocks or buildings later on. An orc outpost or a crashed plane would look sick on top of this centerpiece. So some basic sand over the whole thing, and some larger grit mixed sand in the middle where I don't plan on putting anything. And lastly, seal it down with scatter sealant. If you want to see this process explained in detail, check out my video on terrain made from pizza boxes. While I wait 24 hours for that to dry, I'm going to kick back, put my feet up, and watch some hobby videos. Going to watch some Eric's Hobby Workshop because I've not caught up on his channel for like a few months now. I'm going to watch it on my phone because Health and Safety Frog has commandeered the laptop and he's watching... What are you watching? Fair play. So let's see what Eric's up to. We're going back a while here. Oh, for Temporary existential crisis averted, let's get back to some terrain. Let's crack on with some painting, and we're going to go with a colour scheme that is thankfully different to Eric's Hobby Workshop. I want these to look a little bit Roadrunner, a little bit Mars, Ready, and a little bit Nevada Desert. So I'll lean into the reds a little more than I normally would. This is going to ensure that I can use this for Warhammer, Historical, and the Tombstone game that I just bought into. It's a simple case of overbrushing some burnt umber acrylic. The black is our extreme recesses and the burnt umber is the prevailing lower mid. On top of that, we work our way up by adding creams and yellows. There's no exact science to this at all, I just load up the brush, mash it all together and dry brush it on. It's not an exact science at all, even throwing in some green for no real reason other than to see what it looks like. Each terrain piece is going to be slightly different as a result, but like I always say, Mother Nature don't give a crap, so why should you? It's at this stage where all of our little details and shapes in the foam start to come out and appear. I don't want to go too hard and bring everything out, keeping the brightest value colours to the extreme sharp edges and top areas where I can. All in all, about 90 minutes of painting for everything. The final stage, since some of these highlights are a little bit on the aggressive side, a simple black wash of paint and water. Time to pack up, head home, and leave this table of terrain to dry overnight. And we come in the next morning. Over the course of a couple of afternoons, we've got a full table of terrain, ready for the boys to cause some carnage on, epic battles to be battled in the 41st millennium, Empire and Rebels to duke it out on Tatooine, and Legends of the Old West to find fortune and glory, kid. This project is the first venture into our upcoming Gorkamorka series. I'm going to go video by video and prep essentially what I need to get this game unboxed, painted, finished, introduce new factions, new lore, terrain, scenarios, and then ultimately deliver some pretty fun battle reports if I can. If you want to stay ahead of the game, then subscribe to stay alive. But for now, thanks to my patrons, thanks for watching, thanks to Health and Safety Frog for Health and Safety Frog stuff, and cheers, I'm out of here.